Kia ora, Adam. Great to see you again on League of Our Own, mate. Oh, the big smile is shining bright, and why wouldn't it be, man? And look, before we start talking about Warriors and Storm and how the Warriors are going to plot a pathway to victory in that game on Sunday afternoon at Amy Park, just want to give thanks to you, me, but most importantly, the more than 4,000 people who checked out League of Our Own last week. Eternally grateful to the people who came back, the people who tuned in for the very first time, hearing a couple of Kiwi lads talk about Kiwi Rugby League. It was awesome to see, mate.
It's good to see you, Goran, and yes, to all our people that are coming in and either subscribing or just tuning into our channel. I love the engagement. I love the questions being asked. I love them getting involved. And this is why we do what we do, because all we want to do is just keep giving more rugby league to everyone, but in our own way, our Kiwi flavour and our opinion. So, yeah, appreciate everyone's love. And Goran, me, everyone, we're doing a great job.
Mate, honestly, like I was watching NRL 360 and they spent about 15 minutes talking about Sam Walker, whether he's going to come back early or not from an ACL injury. And it's like, come on, there's so much more to talk about. You're talking about a guy who isn't going to be seen until round 12 or round 20. Let's talk about some awesome rugby league that's happening on the field right now. You know what I mean? It's just
Definitely.
like, oh, come on, man. And so, yeah, the fact that we can shine a spotlight on New Zealanders in the NRL, the Warriors playing their games week in, week out, it's, a really cool opportunity, and I'm so glad that people are getting in behind it, and I hope they do the same again this week. And why wouldn't they? Because we are going to talk about what is a huge game. It's, without doubt, in my mind and probably yours, the biggest game this weekend in the NRL. Warriors going to Melbourne, which has been a graveyard for the New Zealand team for about a decade, maybe more than a decade, in fact. The last time they won a game in Melbourne against the Storm was 2014, man.
Oh, jeez.
The pain.
Goran, I was gonna say I wasn't involved in any wins when I played for the Warriors, so I knew it was a fair way before then.
Yeah, so it's a huge game, not only because there's the 16-match losing streak on the line, but it's an opportunity for both sides to, I guess, underline their potential credentials for the season of 2025. We believe that Melbourne Storm will go really close, if not actually win the premiership this season. I know that you mentioned the Brisbane Broncos at one point a few weeks back, but Melbourne Storm look the goods outside of that little blip against the Dragons a few weeks back. And the Warriors have come back good since that shock loss to the Raiders in Vegas. So, Adam, with your 331 games of experience, your 15 years playing in the NRL, how on earth in Melbourne do the Warriors plot that path to victory on Sunday night?
You know, Goran, and this isn't a funny story, it's just a story.
Okay. I feel like we're about to go on a wee journey here. I'll get comfortable.
I'm going to put myself in the shoes of the Storm player that I was, and then I'm going to reverse myself and chuck myself in the Warriors. Warriors shoes. So, I know when I was at the Storm, when we used to play the Warriors, because when we were there, we had a real strong connection to New Zealand through a lot of our history, through, I guess, the main person being Tawera Nikau, who is a big, iconic player for New Zealand Rugby League in general, Māori Rugby League, but also the Melbourne Storm, and still is to this day. So we when we were down there had a real big focus on winning every game we played against the Warriors, and a lot of it's to do with, I guess, who has represented the Storm before in these games, the history behind the Storm and the Warriors, and also all the Kiwi players that represent the Melbourne Storm, not only today, but in the past. And I felt like when I was down there, we penciled in this game to perform to the best of our ability so that we could get one up over our fellow countrymen, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's the mindset of the Melbourne Stormers. I feel like they go up another gear when they play the Warriors for the reasons that I just said. On the flip side, as a Warriors player,
No, you're almost setting this up like it's, they're doing it wrong or something. Yeah, well, what happens on the flip side? Please, tell us more.
I don't feel, this is just my opinion and my feelings from when I played in the thing. I don't feel the Warriors have the same mindset as this is an opportunity. And I feel like when it's the Warriors, it's an opportunity to beat such a consistent team over the years that it's a great opportunity to challenge yourself as a team to see where you are as a group at this time of the year in the season. So different mindsets where you're coming up against a quality side of the Melbourne Storm that have been over, I reckon, 2 decades, the most consistent club that plays. I don't know if they've ever missed a top 8 or even a top 4 in a long time, but for the Warriors, it's about going down there and trying to beat the Melbourne Storm in their own backyard and really testing yourself out to see where you sit in the competition. Yeah. So I feel like there's 2 different mindsets. One, they're going after the Warriors, the Melbourne Storm, because of the history that these 2 clubs have had. And there's the other is trying to beat a team that's been so consistent in their history to challenge themselves to see where they sit in the competition. So I think this is going to be, I feel like this for me is the game of the round. I think both teams are in form. The only difference is the Warriors have had a bye in between, and the Melbourne Storm have come off a loss and then obviously backed it up with a massive performance at Brookvale. We all know what happens there. Yeah. We all knew what happened there and how big that game was for the Melbourne Storm and the build up into that game. So I think that's prime for one of the biggest games for, I guess, the Warriors this season to see where they sit.
Fascinating insight, Adam, and thanks so much for sharing that. I suppose from your perspective, as you say, you've got Tawera Nikau in your ear saying you need to get one up on your fellow countrymen, and that racks you up and others, other Kiwis playing for the Storm against the Warriors. But in terms of motivating factors for the Warriors, for a number of years, there was the Anzac showdown, right? Now,
I was about to say the same thing.
Surely that is going to invoke some kind of reaction in the players. But so many times we saw, I don't know, it's almost like they were deer in the headlights. And a couple of years ago, it was the 70 points to 10 drubbing where there was just so much hope and it was just absolutely decimated by a ridiculously good Melbourne Storm side. So there have been really good motivating factors for both teams, no doubt about that. But ultimately, over the last decade, it's all been in favour of the Melbourne Storm. The one thing that has been a constant throughout has been Craig Bellamy, a guy that you've played many, many games under. You know the effect he can have on a side because there's been huge change in that Melbourne Storm roster, but still, time after time, they get the result against the Warriors. And from the Warriors' point of view, over the years, over this decade, over this 16-game losing streak, it's not like they've had rubbish players on their roster. You played for them. You had Simon Mannering. There was Ryan Hoffman, who jumped ship. There was so many others. Sean Johnson played many of these fixtures, and they were still unable to find a way to victory. And you've got to give Craig Bellamy huge amounts of credit for that. What is it about Bellyache that manages to get the best out of any kind of group of Melbourne Storm players?
Yeah, I think you said everything right there, Goran. I think there's been so many good quality players on both sides, but when you look at the Melbourne Storm over the last 7 years, they've had a huge change in roster, but still seem to consistently find a way. And I guess if you look from afar, and obviously I was in that system a long time ago, back in 2011, and it's really a simple mind-setting game for the Melbourne Storm. It's do your job. But when you say do your job, everyone actually knows what that is to the detail. And the mindset of making sure that you perform at your best every single week, because you don't want Craig Bellamy barking at your door come Monday morning. But you would also know if you've done something wrong on the weekend that come Monday morning when you're in that video session that you're going to get hammered no matter what. So you better be ready to cop some constructive criticism with a few F-bombs in there. But they are such a well-oiled machine of a team, and they are so connected, not only as a group, but as a culture that they have built over so long since Craig Bellamy's first appearance as the head coach at the Melbourne Storm. So, it's going to be a hard test for the Warriors down at Amy Park, and it'll be a 50-50 split fans. There is so many Kiwis down in Melbourne, and they will come out of the woodworks for the Warriors. So I feel like they've got a chance. And when you talk about a chance of the Melbourne Storm, you've got to be nearly completing at 80%. But this is through the NRL in general anyway, Goran. You've got to be at 80% completion. You've got to kick well. You've got to put them in corners because on the other side, Jerome Hughes will be doing that all day. Ryan Papenhuyzen will be running. All Cameron Munce will be doing his job to make it an uncomfortable night. And someone like Eliesa Katoa, who's obviously come from the Warriors, is now is right up there with one of the best back rows in the competition. So there's a lot to play for both teams. We are only early in the competition, but this will be a big statement for the Warriors if they can get this scalp against the Melbourne Storm at Amy Park.
Oh, absolutely. And you got to wonder what that would do for the confidence levels as they go through this very, what appears to be a very difficult period, because after the Storm, it's the Broncos and then the Knights. And so that 3-week period could not make or break their season, but they could be on the back foot. At the moment, the Warriors find themselves inside the top 4. This is a 3v4 battle on Sunday afternoon. So you want to make sure that you're doing everything in your power to stay in the upper echelon in the NRL.
Definitely.
You mentioned a few key names and a few key sort of areas where the Warriors can get the upper hand against Melbourne. Let's dive into a few of those things because, we don't want to just have surface opinion, and we want to go deep, mate, and figure out how exactly the Warriors do this. One of the areas, one of the key battles I really believe that the Warriors need to assert themselves is in the middle. And it starts with James Fisher-Harris. It starts with Mitch Barnett. At the weekend, and you mentioned it earlier, the Melbourne Storm destroyed the Sea Eagles at Brookvale Oval. They were incredible. And there were 2 3-try bursts either side of half-time that just ruined Manly. They didn't get their hands on the ball. They made a few errors, and they made them pay. So, look, the thing that Anthony Seibold said out the back end at the press conference was that they smashed them through the middle. And that's where everything starts from for the Melbourne Storm. You get them through the middle. Harry Grant does his thing. So let's talk about Fisher-Harris, Barney, the front row interchange, but most importantly, what Wayde Egan will have to do in comparison with Harry Grant. Now, these two guys, I'm wondering if late May they come up against each other in Origin. We spoke about it last week, but Wayde Egan is tracking in that direction, and we already know that Harry Grant plays in that arena for Queensland. When you look at those two players, Harry Grant, always good. Wayde Egan, he's appearing to go to another level. The last 3 years when it comes to runs, he's averaged around about 50 metres per game. At the moment, we're only through 4 games. He's averaging 92. And for 2 games this year, he's gone well in excess of 100 metres per game. So he's got that running game going nicely. So on the back of James Fisher-Harris, Barney, the rest of that middle rotation, if we can see Wayde Egan dominate that ruck area, that goes a long way to the Warriors winning.
Well, it's exactly the same. Like you said, Goran, with the Melbourne Storm, both middles are going to have a huge game for both nines to get the work done for the middle of the park. And I think, you just pulled up you just said those stats about Wayde Egan. He can't do what he does without James Fisher-Harris and Mitch Barnett being able to do their stuff through the middle of the park. And on the other side, same. So for Harry Grant with Stefano, Trent Liero and Josh King, they are just guys that just get their work done between those boys. So it's a massive battle up front. And the Warriors, I think, especially the last 3 weeks before the bye as well, they were enormous. They had a point to prove after Vegas, and I think they've just gone up another gear with their performance as co-captains. They've been a big part of their, I guess, their new look of how the Warriors are going to play on the back of Aaron Clark doing his stuff as well. He's been enormous for them. So he's a different type of footballer. He's nuggety. He's got quick leg speed around the park. He challenges the defenders to get in front of him. He's been quality for that middle of the park with those two boys. So that's where it's all going to start for me. And the battle through the middle of the park. And then if you allow those guys to play football, the Warriors will be able to have, Chanel, Metcalf pushing around the ruck, and far out, I just forgot the fullback just then. Chance.
Well, isn't he off to the Super League anyway, mate?
and Chance just pushing around the middle of the park. So if you win that part of the football field, those guys will have a field day, and so for the Melbourne Storm. So I think that's where it's going to be won. If you don't win that area, the Melbourne Storm will just expose that area for you, and then they'll be just scoring tries, Pappenhausen through the middle of the park, out wide with Eliesa Katoa, Sean Ball doing his things, and then Xavier Coates scoring tries out wide. So a big day for the middle boys, and I guess they would understand that. They would have seen the vision. They had a chance to rest up. They've had a week off to have a look at the vision of the Melbourne Storm, a previous game against the Seagulls. And like you said, Seabolt said they come straight for the middle of the park. They're going to do exactly the same thing against the Warriors.
It's weird what Craig Bellamy can do with a team, though, because on paper, I would back every single day of the week Fish and Barney, two representative players, over King and a guy who's very early in his Melbourne Storm career, Stefano Utoikamanu. That doesn't look like much of a contest for me, but it's what Craig Bellamy manages to get out of these guys to make sure that they perform on game day. So they it's almost like they play out of their skins and above their own station, their own level. And the proof is in the pudding.
Well, it's a funny game, Goran Rugby League, but it's real simple. They run hard, tackle hard, and that's all it is. And if you can do that with a little bit of finesse from your nines and your spine, then you can create a style of football that suits your players. And I said it earlier, everyone knows exactly what their role is. Those guys are no frill front rowers that just get their job done. And they're going to need something similar on the Warriors side. Is they're not going to need to be able to offload or flick pass or do all the fancy stuff. They're going to have to get down and dirty and just do all the gritty stuff, that the things that go unnoticed, the work on the inside pressure, the kick pressures, the getting down a 10-man line in the kick chase.
Oh man, we're getting into the nitty gritty here. I love it.
So kick long into the corners, like all those little things, and then defend really well. If they can do all those things, because the Melbourne Storm will do exactly that, they can do all those things, they'll definitely challenge that Melbourne Storm side. But, man, what a mouth-watering contest this is going to be.
I'm glad that you mentioned kicking long into the corners, because that's the next point, my next point in the key battles and how the Warriors win this. Because relying on the kicking game of Luke Metcalf to really steer them in the right direction, and taking the right option as well, which side of the field you kick to, because you really don't want to muck this up. I'm looking at the back three of the Melbourne Storm. You got Pappenhausen at the back. You've got Xavier Coates on one side of the field, and no Will Warbrick. He's not fit to play, so Grant Anderson is on the other side of the field. If I'm Luke Metcalf, I'm thinking I'm kicking to Xavier Coates. That's the side of the field I'm kicking to. Reasons being, mate, and you can pull me up on this, but the reason I'm going to Coates is you kick long to him. Rocco Berry, the real big dog, is back. You park him up on the right-hand side of the field because last year he made right centre his own, didn't he? So if he's on the right-hand side of the field going up against Howarth and Xavier Coates is on that side of the field too, then the kick chase that Rocco Berry produces has always been good. Metcalf kicks to Coates. Rocco Berry puts the pressure on, limits the amount of metres that Coates makes. Then you've got Anderson and Pappenhausen bringing the ball back for tackles 2 and 3. So I feel like that's probably the way that they would head. Feel free to tell me I'm wrong, though. This is where your expertise comes to the fore, but that's how I would approach it. Because you don't want Xavier Coates winding up on tackle 2 or 3. So Rocco Berry gets down on top of him, and he's ineffective for that first carry.
Yeah, well, typically that's what you'd want to try and do, is try and limit his opportunities with the ball, catching it, but then landing straight on top of him.
Exactly.
That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, Luke Metcalf's going to have to be perfect to where he sets his kicking up, where he guides his front rowers to lay the platform, or where Chance lays that last tackle option. And then when they do kick, he has to be on the money every single time.
Well, he can do that.
He cannot have a moment where you get it wrong, because if he gets it wrong, Xavier Coates catches it. He plays early to Pappenhausen. They spread the ball. Now the line of the Warriors is now unsettled or not together. You know, you've gone from maybe having a 10-man kick chase to maybe a 4 or 5 pulled out of the line where there's opportunity. So the perfect game plan would be and like most teams, would to be kick long and either go up and compete, but you're not going to compete against, against him, no. Xavier Coates. He can leap. So the next best option, like you said, is to land on him, and as he catches it, hits his feet on the ground, and then go after them in the corner and try and catch him behind the ad line. Only way you're going to be able to do it. But to be honest, Goran, it's easy said than done.
I know.
And
I can comfortably say all this sat in my home here in Long Bay in Auckland. But
I think there's definitely opportunities for to go the other side as well. I think there's an inexperience between Leo, who's just come into the NRL, who's only played, he debuted last week. I know Anderson's a great player. What did he score? Did he get a hat-trick last week?
Got a hat-trick, yeah.
Got a hat-trick.
So maybe that's another reason why you stopped kicking to him, right?
I'm thinking...
Kick to the guy who didn't score a try in the Manly round.
I'm thinking you go to someone that's not as aerial prowess as Xavier Coates. And because I'm thinking, this is my thinking, this is my footy brain thinking now, you go that way, you either go up and compete, or you do something similar to Xavier Coates and land on it. And Moses Leo takes that carry, who I watched last week and thought he was pretty good on his debut for the first time. Good sharp feet, he competes, he finds himself in space, hard to handle. Where do you kick it otherwise? I think otherwise you've got these two quality, fullback and Xavier Coates bringing the ball back. I just think with Xavier Coates, there's a bit of more body to go after and attack, because he's quite an upright runner. He does lean into contact, but if you go after him, you can catch him pretty high and maybe take him back and drive him backwards. That's just me trying to find other reasons to be able to try and stop this machine, the Melbourne Storm.
Well, look, whatever happens, it's going to be difficult. You kick one side, you've got a guy who's very good aerially, and then on the other side, you've got a guy who's fresh off a hat-trick. And if you go straight down the middle of the field, it's Ryan Pappenhausen, and the alarm will be sounding. So, look, wherever you go, it's going to be difficult, but you just got to stick to your task, right? And make sure that you get down there, put the pressure on.
I know this is a wild one. Maybe it's a shorter kick where you actually can get numbers down there to try and catch or compete for the ball, or they're coming forward a little bit closer to compete for the ball, where it's either a 50-50 decision, where it's like you're not really 10 meters off your try line, where you go up and get the ball, you allow it to maybe bounce. That may be a little tactic. I don't know. I'm just thinking of different ways to play the Melbourne Storm, because they are a quality side, and you're going to have to find passages in play where you break up their defensive system to be able to explore, I guess, them being set and some being set, some being up, 3-man in the tackle, a late offload, and then you're causing a little bit of disruption through the middle of the park. Wayde Egan, Chance pushing around the middle of the park. So I'm finding just little things maybe away. But that's why I don't coach at NRL level. Maybe I look in for all these little areas, all these reasons where there's mostly nothing there for someone to exploit. You've just got to be really good.
Yeah, you're not coaching at NRL level yet. That's the end of the sentence there, yet, because it could happen. No, it will happen.
Maybe one day.
We'll speak it into existence, man. Okay, it's going to happen.
Okay.
It's going to happen. Yeah, okay. So regardless, you've got to get everything right. And one of the things that they need to get right is their defensive effort on Eliesa Katoa. One of the things for Warriors fans or anybody interested in rugby league in New Zealand is what happens with a former Warriors player when they go abroad, when they go and play for another NRL team. Are they going to get better? And that's what invariably happens for some strange reason. Or are they going to tank it? But Eliesa Katoa, as you mentioned earlier, Blairy, he's become one of, if not the best back rower in the game. He was in the Dally M Team of the Year in the back row position. That's how good Ali's been since he moved to the Melbourne Storm. He's got a bit of everything in his game, doesn't he? He's a wonderful hole runner, strong ball carrier. He's good in the air, good with his hands. He's fast. So how do you stop Eliesa Katoa doing Eliesa Katoa things? Because he's going to be a huge thing. And you spoke earlier, Adam, about the motivation that you felt as a Melbourne Storm player coming up against the New Zealand Warriors. I've got a funny feeling that Eliesa Katoa will feel a similar kind of motivation come Sunday.
Oh, he's been outstanding, hasn't he, since he's left the Warriors, which obviously a lot of fans will say, why did you let him go? But I think for Ali, early in his career, I think he had one local game of rugby league before he debuted in the NRL and from rugby union. He always had the attributes of being a quality NRL player. I felt throughout his journey, especially early, that he didn't get the development that he needed from where he was, and therefore didn't get opportunities on the field to express himself and show what he could actually do. I know he sat at 18th man there, I think the 2021, even maybe 22 year before he left to go to the Melbourne Storm. And we spoke about, I know we've spoken about this before, about the Warriors bench and having some trust in some of those players and giving them some time on the field so that they can actually showcase what they can deliver. We've seen that real clearly with Leka Haleasima and what he's been able to do. I feel like from what he's been able to show people and show his coach, more importantly, and his teammates, that he can play at that level, that he can express himself in a way that's going to be important to the Warriors pack. And I feel like that's what Eliesa Katoa wasn't able to do. But in saying that, he's gone to the right place. He's gone to the right place where the job becomes simpler. Your role is real, I guess, laser focused, where, like you said, he can run real good inside shoulder lines on halfbacks. He can run outside shoulder lines on halfbacks. He can compete in the air. He's a strong ball carrier, and he sits himself outside, block runs on us outside a centre, and he's got nice soft hands. So what more can you ask from a back rower when you've got someone like him that can do everything and then has just been fine-tuned into the specimen that he is now for the Melbourne Storm? And I think, he's going to have a huge game because there's always a point to prove when you play against a club where he came from. And maybe they didn't see what the Melbourne Storm saw in Eliesa Katoa. So I'm guessing there's always going to be a soft spot for the Warriors because that's where he got his opportunity. But when it comes to this game, that mindset changes over to winning. It's a winning, and he will be a big part if the Storm were to win, a big part of this game. And to shut him down, you've just got to get stuck into him. But in saying that, he is, like you said, he was in the Dally M Team of the Year, and he is a quality player that has just gone leaps and bounds to his performances and has been real consistent and become a target for Jahrome Hughes to play to a lot. And he'll have a big he'll have a big say in the result of the game.
Yeah, it's an interesting mindset or frame of mind where you come up against your former team and you want to really stick it to them. But really, in Eliesa Katoa's case, he should be thankful and grateful because, as you pointed out, he wasn't getting as many opportunities, and then Craig Bellamy sees something in him and says, "You're my guy, and we're going to take you to a grand final." You know what I mean? So I know what you're saying. You want to show your former team what they're missing, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, I'm glad that I was let go, and I'm glad that I landed in Melbourne because look at me now. You know, like I've taken my game to another level, and a level that possibly I wouldn't have achieved if I had have stayed.
Hey, Goran, there's only 2 coaches, I think, and this is my personal opinion, that I would drop everything to go and play for.
Oh, can I guess? Can I guess?
two coaches in the game. Go for it.
It's got to be Craig Bellamy.
Definitely.
Ding. And Wayde Bennett.
Definitely.
Ding. All right.
So
cool.
So if you're a young player and someone of that caliber, those 2 players, those 2 coaches that I just mentioned, knocks on your door or makes a phone call or even inquires about you, you stop what you're doing, you listen, and you figure out...
check the phone. Hang on a minute. Is this Wayde Bennett calling?
And you figure out how quick you are going to get down to those clubs where they are coaching because they turn you into not only a good rugby league player, but a great person as well. And he would be so, when he looks back on his time, he's going to be grateful for the opportunities that the Warriors gave him, but also grateful for where he is because, you know, and I've said it throughout my whole journey, even being on the outside now, that the foundations I learnt all come from the Melbourne Storm, and nothing I did away from the game or even when I left that place had changed because they turned me, into who I was as a rugby league player, and I just added a few things here and there. So someone like Eliesa Katoa, who's only so young, is only going to be better as the years go on. And to be honest, Goran, I don't see him leaving that club. I feel like that club will be his home for the rest of his career unless something just blows out of the park and we get to a stage where, you know, every player's on $1 million.
He's off to PNG or $2 million bucks.
Yeah, unless, you know, every player's getting $1 million each, then we start making some decisions around there. But I feel like he is definitely a Melbourne Storm player for life.
Yeah. Hey, now, just to clarify, and you need to be really careful here because as we've discussed, he listens to this. I think it's his favourite podcast. Are you telling me that Andrew Webster doesn't have the same effect as a Craig Bellamy and a Wayde Bennett?
I think, you know, different coaching styles, I guess different eras that they've come through.
It's time in the saddle and premierships won though, isn't it?
It's aura.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's premierships that they've won. It's cultures that they've built. It's evident. It's evident from the outside looking in that to my opinion again, 2 of the best coaches in the game can take people places. And when we say take people places, it's take you to grand finals. It's turn you into a better human, a better rugby league player, a better athlete, a better father, a better partner. And like I said, there's only 2 coaches I would, even if I got a phone call right now, I'll get out of this podcast and I'm off.
Well, don't leave me, mate. Come on.
But I've just got the call up on Mount. So I think time, like you said,
Are you fit enough? Are you ready? Are you ready for that call?
You know, some of these players, I'm not being disrespectful here. I think I can do 10 minutes each side of the half.
Okay.
No.
Out you go.
Brother, the game has changed so much in the last 5 years since I finished, and the detail has gone to another level. There is no way that I'd be able to get any time in there. I'm scared to be tackled these days or even run a ball into some of these athletes. So there's no way I'd be doing that. But Eliesa Katoa, Wayde Bennett, Craig Bellamy, what a machine he's turned into. And yes, they would be the two coaches I would drop everything for.
Hey, while we're raving about people and their efforts, we've got to give a round of applause to Aaron Clark, who brings up a long-awaited, almost long overdue milestone against the Storm. 100 NRL games. It's taken some time, man. And he's become a really key cog in the Warriors machine in the blink of an eye. And his role has become even more important in the absence or the departure of Dylan Walker, because they were looking like interchanging, weren't they, in that middle role? So, yeah, I mean, you can probably speak to Aaron's journey to game 100, but earlier we were speaking about motivating factors to get the win for the Warriors, and surely you want to put in your best performance for Aaron, and Aaron himself would want to put in a wonderful performance in this milestone game. That's got to have some bearing on what the Warriors will be doing in the lead up to this game, and one of the messages that's in the sheds before they take to the field on game day.
Well, they definitely celebrate milestones really well with the Warriors, and you only have to go back to Tohu Harris and what they did for him. I know it's obviously a different scenario, but every milestone's important for every individual and every player, because especially for Aaron, he's been on a bumpy ride, and he's been on the rugby league roller coaster where he's had some off-field stuff and had some injuries and some inconsistency around performances, but he's really turned the leaf around. The way he prepares himself, and I guess his motivation is why he does what he does, because he got an opportunity to come into the Kiwi space as well. And I thought he was his mindset and his change of his view of where he wants to go as a player and how serious he's taken his rugby league shows in his performances for the Warriors this year, and how important he has become. And like you said, Dylan Walker's out of the way. They do play a different game style of football, having him on the back of James Fisher-Harris and Mitch Barnett. But I think it works for someone like Wayde Egan. He can create an offload, and maybe that's where Wayde comes into his own. He's got real fast leg speed. He can get over, he can bump. He's a different body shape, a bit more rounder than those big boys, but it's each to their own.
Not in a bad way either. Not in a bad way.
He finds a way to work within his strengths to do what he does consistently, and he has been doing it week in, week out for the Warriors. So a huge milestone for Aaron. Happy for him. Hopefully they go out there and put in a performance that everyone can be proud of, and Aaron, and I know that he will go out there wanting to do the best job that he can possible for the club.
Yeah. Congratulations. I know it hasn't happened yet, but Aaron, congratulations on everything you've achieved, and enjoy Sunday if you can in the cauldron that is a match against Melbourne in Melbourne on the back of horror run. A reason why they can do it, the Warriors on Sunday, is that they've got a number of players in their ranks that have tasted victory against the Melbourne Storm, albeit not with the Warriors, with different teams. And I think with James Fisher-Harris coming in from a system in Penrith that has a culture of winning, they've been in the last 5 grand finals, they've got 4 premierships. He's unaffected by all the stuff that's been before him. And he's not all of a sudden going to become a bad player overnight just because he's put on a different jersey and he's running around with the New Zealand Warriors. So somebody like that, unaffected by what's gone on before him at this club, and he is the leader of this team, I think he's going to show the way. What do you reckon, though? Lay it on the line. Can the Warriors break this streak or not on Sunday afternoon?
Oh, man, I think it's going to be... Man, if I know history, and like you said, some of these players haven't played in the Warriors team against the Melbourne Storm team before. I think it's going to be a tough game. My heart says that the Storm the Storm will be just too good. My brain hopes for New Zealand and the Warriors, because like every Kiwi over here, man, the Warriors are either your first team or your second team, because New Zealand is home and they are in our home country. And no matter where I go in the world, I will always have a soft spot. And I always had from the moment I left New Zealand as a 15-year-old, that even though I played for other clubs, I still wanted the Warriors to do well for New Zealand as a whole, for all the kids back home in New Zealand, and for the fans. I would love to see them be able to get up against our Melbourne Storm side. 2014 was the last time, but I just can't see, and I hope they prove me wrong, I just can't see them beating a Melbourne Storm team and at Amy Park, Goran. So, sorry to all our Warriors fans and all our Kiwi fans. I guess it's a tough one. I think this, like I said earlier, Goran, it's going to be, I think for me, the game of the round. I think it's going to be the game of the round, because it's two quality teams, consistent so far, playing their best footy, and only round 6. So I think it's going to be a great contest.
I just don't think you can write them off, mate. And
you said I just made a decision. I know. You can't sit on the fence. You have to.
No, of course.
I'm not writing them off. I'm just saying that...
You're just saying that they're going to lose to the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah, well, what do you want me to say?
Well, I mean, you can say whatever you want to say. But what I want to say is this.
Okay.
The unpredictable nature of the NRL to this point. Like this season has been all over the place. And I can...
Agree.
I'll give you two examples of how crazy it's been. Penrith Panthers, yep, they've lost a lot of players. But they've lost 4 in a row. You got the Penrith Panthers in the bottom 4, not the top 4. Mm-hmm. And then the other one I want to mention is that the Melbourne Storm thrashed the Eels. Yep. Then they lose, the Melbourne Storm lose to the Dragons. And then the Dragons lose to the Eels. So riddle me this, riddle me that.
We thought that the Eels would beat the Dragons.
Yes, we did. Yep.
And I thought they had a chance as well. It's a tough competition, like you said, and it's hard to pick. That's why I said this will be the game of the round. That's why I said it'll be the game of the round, because I'll be tuning in, seeing what happens and what the result is. And, I want the Warriors to do well, but I think the Melbourne Storm will be too good at Amy Park, and history tells me that as well. Sorry.
All right. Time for Betcha This Happens, and last week it was almost over before it began. We fell over at the first hurdle, lost the first game. The record itself overall wasn't too bad. We picked 5 of 8, but when you lose the first 2, the multi is dead in the water. Yeah, you don't have to be Einstein to figure that one out. So onwards and upwards, hoping for better in Betcha This Happens for round 6. I'm just going to fly through it. I'm picking the Penrith Panthers with Dylan Edwards back in the number 1 jersey to beat the Dolphins. Ooh, Dragons to bounce back against the Titans at home. Broncos, even though there are a couple of guys under an injury cloud, I reckon the Broncos far too strong for the Roosters. This is what do we do here? Sharks and Sea Eagles, because Manly's just come off the back of that bruising encounter with Melbourne, and the Sharks, who are one of our smokies for a top 4 finish, they've lost the last couple of games. What do you see happening, Sharks, Sea Eagles?
Well, so you see, there's a lot of games. Well, there is no games in New South Wales. Oh no, actually, there's no games in Sydney this weekend. NRL games in Sydney this weekend. Everything's outside of Sydney. I think those games are in Perth, aren't they? Optus Stadium.
Yeah, I think Rabbits playing in Perth.
Yeah, I think there's 2 teams, and that's the other team, the Sharks and Sea Eagles. Man, I think this is a 50-50 one. I think both teams are coming off poor performances. No, actually, sorry, they weren't at their best. They weren't at their best, and I think one team got ambushed, which was the Brookvale team. Maybe they are living up in all the hype of the Brookvale battle, and the fans got amongst that as well. And you could see by a lot of the fans turning up for them, but then they all ended up exiting around the 60th minute. Unlucky to you, Sea Eagle fans.
Actually, before we go on,
See you later.
I had to laugh, man. Like I sat down. What was it? 6 o'clock on Sunday, just gone, and I'm thinking to myself, what are they going to do in terms of the coverage? Because it is the Battle of Brookvale, and sure enough, sure as eggs, there, the first clip that I see, it's you and Glenn Stewart, you and the Manly Sea Eagles having that scrap, like. It just had to be, I know, but they didn't wait long. It was literally the first second of their coverage.
I think.
Did you get the royalty check?
No, I didn't even bother. I've just given up because I think
don't give up.
What it's done, it's given fans some excitement and some enjoyment leading into this game. They've sold the game on the back of history around the Battle of Brookvale, but also the past of all these fights and stuff like that. Obviously, you can't do it now, but the fans, as you saw, if you watched the game, Goran, the fans turned out in their numbers, and unfortunately, the fans left early too. So unlucky to all those Manly fans. They walked out early. So thanks for coming. Melbourne Storm ambushed them in their own backyard. Yeah. So I think they're up for a big performance, but so are the Sharks. I think the Sharks are going to be too good over there. I think they're going to be hurting after that loss there from the Canberra Raiders where they pipped them at the post.
Late. Yeah.
Yes, they weren't at their best, but I think they'll get a job done over in Perth.
Yeah, the Sea Eagles burns just keep on coming. Sharks, locked and loaded. What about the Rabbitohs with a new halves combination? There's no Humphreys, there's no Cody Walker, so they've chucked Latrell Mitchell into the 6. I would have thought maybe keep him in the centres and put Jack Whiten in the halves. Maybe that's something they'll do on the night. Will the Cowboys be too strong for them? Yeah, I'll pick the Cowboys. The Eels play the Raiders in Darwin. That's a straight loss for the Eels. That's what happens up there. They just honestly they take their home games up north and they get flogged. So Raiders to win that one. Don't laugh, man. Like that's what happens. History has told me that just don't even bother.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm doing something crazy. I'm going to go the Warriors to break the streak.
Nice.
Because why not? And in the final game of the round, it's the Knights and the Tigers. I'm going to pick the Newcastle Knights, and that locks in my 8-leg multi paying 96.24. As always, please gamble responsibly and R18 and all that sort of stuff with the Betcha app. But tell us about the twin who's going to debut against the Tigers, Tyrone Thompson, rugby union convert. He's finally getting a crack in the NRL arena. What can we expect from the twin?
Man, I just saw that on socials this afternoon, Goran, over here, and what a cool opportunity for identical twins to be able to play the game of rugby league together. And maybe there was an inkling that they would never be able to play in a team ever again when they left home, when Leo left home at a young age and Tyrone was on a journey to becoming, hopefully, like every kid in New Zealand, want to be an All Black. Man, this is a cool story. This is a cool story. Someone that's only played, what's he played? Maybe three rugby league games at New South Wales Cup.
Gosh.
And has had a pre-season, his first pre-season, and plays a complete different position to rugby union. And the movements are so much different, as in you're up, down, off the ground, you've got to move everywhere. And I know in rugby union, the hooker position doesn't have to follow the ball. Rugby league's a different game where every position you have to be moving at some stage of the field. And I guess, I'm proud of Tyrone and where he is at the moment. And yes, he has a lot to learn and a lot to work on. But an opportunity through, I guess, injuries has given his NRL start come a little bit earlier for him. And I think imagine yourself in the NRL team, Goran, and you had your brother, your identical twin next to you.
I don't have one of those.
Running on the field, imagine.
Okay.
Imagine. And how would you feel as a family, as a brother, as a connection, how good that would be as an opportunity to be able to run out together and do and play the game that you love.
Oh, it'd be amazing, mate. But I don't think the world needs another one of me because I'm punishing enough as I am,
So I think he's worked his butt off to get to where he is, and through his work ethic and his relentlessness of wanting to learn the game, he's been given an opportunity, like a lot of us when I played, through an injury or through some sort of, hardship through someone else being, someone else not being available. He's now given us a shot to be able to play the game. And what better place to play at home, Mac Jones Stadium. I hope his old man gets come over. I'm sure he will, and be there on game day for both boys, because it's a cool opportunity, and I know he'll grab with both hands, and together they'll be stronger.
Yeah, and we don't know for how much more the twins will be able to play together, because obviously Leo's off to the Bulldogs as well. So, yeah, opportunities might be limited. So, yeah, I hope they make every post to win it this coming weekend, and they go out there and enjoy themselves. And isn't it funny, the Thompson twins playing for Newcastle after the Saifiti brothers, played up front. So it's almost like you guys in Newcastle, you got a thing for guys that look identical.
Yeah, and it's an exciting opportunity, man. And I can't wait for the commentators to get their names wrong. Thompson, they're just going to call them both Thompsons, and because it's really hard to change. But a little tip for all our fans out there: Leo's got a tattoo on his left side of his arm.
Okay.
Tyrone's the opposite side. So for all our fans, if you're watching the game and you think you're going to get it mixed up, Leo has a tattoo on his left arm.
So they're like a mirror image of each other. Is it the same tattoo, just in reverse?
Pretty much the same tattoo, just
there you go.
One's on the left hand, one's on the right hand.
Nice one, mate. Great insight, as always, from the big man, Adam Blair. Great to see you, mate, for League of Our Own. I'm not sure if we've spoken a Warriors win into existence here today. You've actually said the Storm are going to win, but
you have.
Yeah, I have. So we'll come back same time next week and see what we've done. But great to see you as always, and keep the engagement coming. If you're watching League of Our Own this week, let us know what you think. I loved all the comments coming through. It was awesome to see, and at some point we'll get back to you. But Blairy, have a great rest of your week, mate. We'll see you in 7 days, eh?
Awesome, Goran. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.